I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, July the 29th, brought to you in part by Noromycin by Norbrook. Noromycin 300 LA is an economical 300 milligram oxytetracycline for broad spectrum of cattle diseases and infections. You need to have it in your pickup. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Lost time, and I'm not saying that I hit my head or anything. Some people have a little bit of lost time during that, but I lost 2 hours on Wednesday watching the House Ag Committee hearing, and I'll never get that time back. It was a complete waste of time. Like I had predicted, there was no fireworks like there was in the Senate Ag Committee hearing. There was no heroes there for the small producer, the cattle feeder, or the cattle industry in itself. It was basically made up of 4 testimonials there. 3 of them were academics, and then they had a representative from Rabobank. And Rabobank had a representative there at the Senate Ag Committee hearing, so I guess that goes to show you that money talks, because Rabo is an outfit that has a Fort Knox offshore that loves to lend loads of money to different investments that can sop up a lot of it. So they're not wanting to lend a few $100,000 to a rancher or a small feeder or a producer or something like that. They want to lend a few $100 million to a big outfit, and they want everything to be hedged, not necessarily through the futures market, but more so through some kind of a sweetheart formula contract arrangement deal there, where everything is secured through there. But of course they wanted everything to be status quo. We wanted to keep everything just the same. They bragged about the AMAs, the alternative marketing agreements, that we've talked about in the past there, and talking about how that is the only way that you're really going to be able to sell cattle and receive premiums and get your full market value and everything. Every time we talk about these AMAs, they neglect to tell people that an alternative marketing agreement is contingent on you promising all your cattle to one packer. So what does that do? It eliminates competition, and there's no negotiation with other packers. And that's what your AMAs do for you. Yeah, you might get a premium if you got real fancy cattle, better than anybody else's or something like that. And if you've got loads of them, I mean, the only premiums we know in your fat cattle sales are for volume and tons of it. So, so a small guy, an independent guy, a guy that retains ownership and raises good cattle and wants to sell his own fat cattle, your AMAs are not where you're going to find it unless you want to eliminate competition for buying your cattle. I had a Dr. Lusk from Purdue. He was impressive and seemed to be very intelligent, but he was speaking about how if we get a minimum negotiated cash mandate, it's going to be very costly. I don't understand where all these costs are going to come from for a mandate on minimum negotiated cash. We're going to use your USDA's mandated livestock reporting there to enforce those. Where's all the cost coming from the mandates? And they continue to tell us that there's going to be big costs if we get a mandate for minimum negotiated cash. We've got to get minimum negotiated cash. The time is now, and what they're waiting on, what Chuck Grassley, Deb Fisher, and on all the champions of this are waiting on, is for us, and it's basically going to have to come from a trade association. We know it's not going to come from NCBA. They don't want to do anything. RCAF could get involved, but most likely it's going to be U.S. Cattlemen's Association. We've got to decide what we want. Well, it's getting late in the game. We've got to get something done. They've got to reauthorize LMR, livestock mandatory reporting, here in September. We've got to get something done. So what do we need to do? We need to go with the most widely accepted percentages out there, or levels that are out there, and it's going to have to come from Dr. Kuntz, investigation into that and to his analysis. So let's just go with that. And I know we weren't thrilled with it a year ago or more, but it's getting worse every day, guys. It's like the feral hog problem in Central Texas. It gets worse every day. So if we don't get something done here with some kind of a mandate to save the industry, we're going to lose it all. So let's just go with it. You know, we've got some analysis there that shows us where a robust market should be, and let's just go with it. Let's go with it. Let's leave it open, like Deb Fisher's bill says, and we can adjust that as we go forward down the line. But let's just go with it. Let's go with something, anything that mandates some type of minimum negotiated cash trade, because if we don't, we're going to lose it all. They went on to talk in the House Ag Committee hearing. What I could stay awake of it for was that there was really no need for further expansion of slaughter capacity, because indeed our cattle numbers are dwindling, and it's a new time, and we're gotten into drought and things like that, and so the numbers of cattle are going to dwindle. So we don't need to further expand our slaughter capacity, because cattle numbers are dwindling, and then cattle are going to get higher, and these packers may not be able to make the huge margins that they've been making, over the last couple of years here. Who cares? You know, cattle people have been losing money on cattle for decades here, and you don't hear them whining. We've got to get as much slaughter capacity as we can. We need a lot more of these smaller regional type packers. We need a lot more of these smaller local locker type plants that are going to sell to their local communities, and they can guarantee where that beef's coming from. They can trace it back. They can tell you what farm they come from, or ranch, and we definitely need to do that. So the House Ag Committee hearing was a complete bust, and like I said, lost a couple of hours there that I'm never going to get back. On the other hand, they had a Senate Judiciary Committee meeting with Chuck Grassley there, and I was unable to watch that. I had to just get the cliff notes from other people, because somebody from U.S. Cattlemen's Association scheduled a conference call right in the middle of it, Lee Richmond, but missed that, but did get to talk to some guys about that, and Chuck Grassley there was kind of ahead of the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting there, and it was all about competition, in your beef. And they had a couple of packers there, and Chuck Grassley basically poured gas on them. If you watch the Senate Ag Committee hearing, you know what he's capable of. You know where his passion's at. You know that he works for his constituents there in Iowa, and he wants to see those farmer feeders, those cattle producers in that state, which has more of them than anywhere now. He wants to see them stay in business. He wants to see competition. He wants to see price transparency. He wants to see a fair market, and basically, that's what he does, and that's what he pushed for. And we hope to get something done here really quick. We just gotta quit bickering and talking about what's the best deal to do and where we're going to come from or how we're going to prove it. Let's just go with Dr. Kuntz numbers there and push for some kind of a mandate. And I know that he didn't put those numbers together for a mandate, because he was putting them together at the expense of our checkoff dollars through NCBA, and he was that wasn't his end goal, but it's pretty good analysis, so let's go ahead and go with it. Let's look at the board on Wednesday. Your August live cattle futures were up 15 cents at 123.07, so not a big move there. October was up a dime, not much there. 128.52, and you go on your back months of your live cattle futures, they were all a nothing burger too, from down 10 cents to up 12. August feeder cattle down 52 cents, so they haven't given up everything that we gained on Monday, but a lot of it. But sitting at 160.17 on the close on Wednesday. September was down 55 cents at 163.45. Back months on your feeder cattle futures down 37 cents to up a quarter, so not a big move there either. Fat cattle trade continued to kind of trickle in on Wednesday. Not much trade at all. That we have really yet to establish a price for this week's negotiated trade. Iowa had about 500 head there confirmed on Wednesday. Live sales at 123, dress sales at 195. That was a long ways from the 202 that we saw earlier in the week. Nebraska only about 300 head, and your Northern Plains guys they're just not selling. They're saying, you guys need cattle, we got them, you won't give us any more for them, your fundamentals warrant us getting more money, and you won't give it. But the few live sales I had in Nebraska was at 123. Kansas about 600 head, 120 to 122. Texas had more, 1,900 head, but a lot of those were the online auction deal, and some of those were poor prices from 116 up to 120. So we haven't established our price for negotiated fat cattle this week. Box beef cutout values were higher and a lot higher. You know, we talked on our last visit about the huge volume that they sold last week, and they bottomed out last week as they were coming off those big inflated prices that they had been charging, through all the black swans that had gone on. But choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, 273.16, up 343. That's a big move. And selects up 218 at 256.12. Your slaughter is going along at a pretty good pace so far this week. 358,000 through Wednesday. That was up 9,000 from a week ago, up 3,000 from the same week a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday at 152.30, off 20 cents. So Monday was crazy. Tuesday was a little more modest, and Wednesday was kind of steady with that, even though even our Wednesday sales were still higher and quite a bit compared to the same sale a week ago, but they're just not as crazy as what we saw on Monday when the board was up big. But look at your big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma. That was your Zactran market of the month for July. 5,800 head there for this week. Feeder steers $1 to $3 higher. Feeder heifers $3 to $5 higher. Calves $2 to $8 higher. And the extreme on the top side there was on your lightweights, of course. But look at some of your steer quotes out of there. Got off your automated market report out of Cattle Market Central there. 638 head of 7-weight steers, averaged 745 with a weighted average price of 154.83. 675 head of 8-weight steers, averaged 849 at 148.39. And 1,073 head of big 9-weight yearling feeder steers in El Reno, averaged 939 with a weighted average price of 143.06. Including in there, but got pulled down, was 117 head in one lot, weighed 921 at 151.75. Look at some of your other sales around the circuit. How about Winfield Livestock Auction in Winfield, Kansas? Man, they've been impressive all of a sudden. And look at this steer report that I pulled off of Cattle Market Central there out of Winfield, Kansas. 319 head of 772-pound steers. All your 7-weights there averaged 150.28. 330 head of the 8-weight steers in Winfield averaged 842 at 151.14, even higher than the 7-weights. And 468 head of 9-weight feeder steers in Winfield, Kansas averaged 927 at 149.46. How about a big quote out west where it's really scary dry? I tell you what, they're doing a good job in Twin Falls Livestock Commission there. Got some good friends there, been to that sale, and they do a good job. 218 head, weighed 847 at 152.85. How about another no man's land quote out of the Oklahoma Panhandle? I gave you the big quotes on Beaver County Stockyards on their last visit. How about Texhoma Livestock Exchange? My good friend Ashley Nolan has really got that sale cranking. He's doing an excellent job. I've told you guys he's as good a young cattleman that there is in this business in the Southern Plains. But he had 198 head of home-raised steers from Boise City, Oklahoma. They were all black, weighed 953 at 154.25 on Wednesday, Texhoma, Oklahoma. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, and your Zactran top quote for the day, come out of Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota. 95 head, 677-pound drought out steers at 179. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.